Hi, I'm Zach Mayfield, and today we're talking about the Sony A7S III. This is not a full review by any means. This is just me talking about my one experience taking it to Colorado, hanging with my boys, making a fun vlog style video, as well as a little short horror film called The DoorDash Slasher.
Here's your order.
The videos that came out of this trip to Colorado were not planned before the trip at all, so I'm just gonna go through my process of like how we made this little short film in basically an hour, and my experience with the camera making a short film in low light. Pretty much the whole thing was shot at 12,800 ISO, and we're gonna get into all that crazy stuff. So, thanks for being here.
Nice job, guys.
Ready, set, go!
So let's start with pre-production. Basically, we knew we wanted to make some sort of sketch or weird short film, as we usually do when we hang out.
You got the feeling like we're being watched?
Hello there! Heard you boys were on a cream crusade.
These are my buddies from college, so when we get together, we like to just be idiots. It comes very naturally to us, actually. We thought about what resources we had available to us. Obviously, we had the camera, the Sony A7S III, a microphone, one lens, and the ability to order DoorDash whenever we wanted. So we came up with this idea of like, what if a DoorDash delivery person was a serial killer? What would that look like? And then we came up with DoorDash Slasher in reference to SpongeBob.
Singing slasher!
And so we just basically sat down at a coffee shop and came up with a short list of shots that would create a little narrative. We knew we didn't want to incorporate too much dialogue because that can just be extremely corny very easily. So I think there's only 2 lines of dialogue in the whole thing.
Here's your order.
We wanted to just show what was happening instead. And because we're such moronic human beings, we knew we couldn't make something totally serious and pull it off. It just doesn't work with our sense of humor and the kind of stories we wanted to tell. So we went with something that was like kind of murdery and kind of cool, in my opinion, but also like kind of cringe, kind of dumb. Let's talk a little bit about camera settings. So we shot in 4K, 10-bit, 420, not 422. And the reason is the 420 codec is really smooth on the computer. I didn't even have to make proxies, which I'm very accustomed to, just like having 30 minutes to an hour set aside before I edit to render all my files so that I can edit smoothly. The 420 4K codec held up very well on my 2017 computer. It was just really nice. It worked really well. I don't have the camera with me anymore, so I can't really show this very well, but in the camera settings for codec and resolution, in 4K, there's options, and from top to bottom, it's the lowest quality to the highest quality. And I think I was at the second to the bottom. So not like the least quality 4K possible, but one step up from that. So that's how I was getting 4K, 420, 10-bit. It looked really good, especially like compressed on YouTube and everything. I think it looks really nice. Because we were working with ambient light from just like light sources in the apartment that we rented, I shot everything at 1.8 on the 20mm G lens, and we shot in 24 frames per second. We didn't do any slow motion. That way we just kept our shutter nice and low at 1/50th of a second, just getting as much ambient light onto the sensor as possible to avoid nasty noise. And also we did shoot the entire thing at 12,800 ISO. So when we were indoors and the lights were a little bit brighter, I was actually stopping down the lens instead of lowering the ISO. Reason being, up to like 10,000 ISO, it starts to get really noisy. And then when you switch to 12,800, it kind of switches into this dual native gain ISO mode, and it gets a lot cleaner at 12,800. Gerald Undone, much smarter than me. He has a whole video explaining everything about that, but you can trust the 12,800, which is really cool. So I was stopping down when there was too much light instead of lowering my ISO. We shot an S-Log3 as well, and I think it was the S-Gamut-Siii, S-Log3 with the Siii gamut, I believe. The autofocus, the low light, the image, the color, like, oh, also the IBIS, the stabilization. Friggin' good. It's almost like GH5 levels of IBIS when you have the active turned on. And when you do have the active turned on, it's a 1.1 crop, especially on the 20mm lens. I didn't notice that at all. And it just floats, baby. It feels so good. It does a great job. There's no weird warping. Now, I wasn't trying to get perfect exposure for every shot because we were just having fun, like goofing around, making this video, this short film, whatever you want to call it. but I was kind of trying to overexpose by like 1.3 or 1.7 on the little light meter. I saw from Gerald Undone's video that that's a really good way to get really nice looking images with minimal noise. So I think it turned out good. I know you guys can't really tell perfectly because of YouTube's compression, but looked good to me. Everything was shot handheld with IBIS on. For the little push-ins and like camera moves, I just tried to keep my hands as steady as possible, and then IBIS kind of took the rest of that and just made it look nice and smooth. There was no post stabilization or anything like that, no noise reduction. All I did in post to color it was use film convert. And I'm still getting used to Sony's color anyway, and I'm also not an amazing colorist, so I did the best with what I had, especially with the different ambient lights. The biggest challenge was probably shooting the hot tub stuff. I was a little worried because the noise from the hot tub was a little bit loud, so we just turned it off and I added the hot tub ambience in post.
Okay, one more. That was super good. That was super good.
And we had to rely completely on the little LED lights inside the hot tub, the colored lights. So the shots of the DoorDash slasher, that is the only light we're having, those LEDs inside the hot tub. But then on the flip side, when we're filming Andrew looking at the DoorDash slasher, there were some outdoor like floodlights that I flipped on, and just to get a little bit of light on his face. But I wanted to keep the shots of the DoorDash slasher as dark as possible. So I just opened up the lens to 1.8, set the ISO to 12,800, turned on those LED lights, and just hoped that we would have enough light. And it worked out. It was fine. I had to lift the shadows a little bit, but it's honestly totally usable. It's kind of crazy. I'm not used to that. Another challenge I knew I was gonna run into was making it clear to the audience that Andrew was ordering DoorDash. So we actually just ordered DoorDash in real life, bought some lovely Taco Bell. And I screen recorded my iPhone for the entirety of that order so I could just make sure I had the correct text to help tell the narrative of ordering the food. Instead of tracking it with After Effects, I just used the Transform plugin in Premiere. I set my shutter angle to 180 degrees and then went like every 5 keyframes, I moved that little visual of the phone screen along with the physical phone, and it kind of looked like it was tracked. I'm not amazing at that stuff. I don't even have After Effects, but I think it sold the idea pretty well. And then I did the exact same thing with the photos that the DoorDash slasher sends to Andrew in the video. I think the most intricate part of this whole thing was actually the sound design. I found a couple of really intense and cool, like creepy songs on Artlist, and actually ended up cutting them together for certain parts. And I didn't want the music to sound like too cinematic where it was like try hard, because that's cringe. So I tried to find something that had a little bit of electronic elements, so it's still like, you know, kind of fun, kind of campy, but like just not too serious, because that's not my style. Using the A7S3 was just a complete breeze. I'm so excited to get my hands on this camera and use it more for content creation, just because it was so reliable. I had no issues with it. Image looks amazing. Autofocus is amazing. And for me, it just helped further prove the idea that you don't need like all the cool gear. Yes, the A7S3 is like extremely expensive for most of us. It wasn't the camera really that made it fun. It was me being with people I care about and making a silly idea come to life. It's not about the camera. Yes, it's nice to have something that works for you, but you really can shoot on anything and make your ideas come to life. And really, that's the most rewarding part, is just watching this back with the people you care about and being like, yo, we dumb. So don't feel obligated to save up for an A7S3 if it's not smart for you. Like, just enjoy your time making stuff, and appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for the support. You guys are so awesome. I love making videos for you guys, interacting with you. Thanks for supporting by buying the merch and stuff.
here, Jude.